Why should you be the next mayor of Colorado Springs?
Well, thanks for having me today. And really, because I really feel in giving back to our community, and I've lived a life of service as a military officer, and then now as a county commissioner and as a volunteer at my church. I honestly do believe I have that experience, leadership skills, broad background, and conservative values that matches our community. And so I really feel that my getting in this race with the experiences I have and the proven leadership and record that I have, that I can be a really great next mayor for Colorado Springs. And I really want to do what's best for our community.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of your priorities. One of the priorities you've laid out is funding for roads. Colorado Springs already has funding sources from PPRTA and 2C. State lawmakers also passed a transportation bill a couple of years ago. How much more in tax dollars needs to go towards roads?
Well, I've always prioritized when I ran for county commissioner, and now as I'm running for mayor, I prioritized our public safety, our roads and infrastructure, and I want to continue to do that. Some of the things that we can do is sometimes just the managing of the projects themselves. So we've heard complaints or concerns from the community that a lot of the money is going to sidewalk, curb and gutter. Well, what we can do, and I've recommended already, is that you prioritize the road segments where more of that proportion is going to the road improvement versus the curb and gutter, which still needs to be done. Those are mandates. We will do that. But if you prioritize the roads where most of the money is going to, a higher percentage of that money going to the road itself versus the curb and gutter, you can get more lane miles done quickly and then get to the other roads where that proportion is maybe separated a little bit differently, higher proportion perhaps the sidewalks, a little bit later, and that way we can maximize the repairs and the maintenance and the improvements to our roads sooner.
Yeah, so are the existing funding sources sufficient?
Well, I think I will emphasize providing additional funds because I have been hearing from the public for Colorado Springs, they really want to see continued improvements to our roads and infrastructures and to our public safety. So I'll be prioritizing both of those in future budgets.
Okay, where is that additional funding coming from?
Well, again, trying to find some efficiencies. We have seen the city's general fund budget increase from 2019, 36%. And we've also seen from a voter-approved Tabor retention from 2021, additional funds long-term that can go to capital improvement projects. And so I want to prioritize and utilize those funds to those projects.
Got it. So you've also talked about public safety and parks by not raising taxes. Tell us a little bit more about how you plan to do that. I know you mentioned the Tabor retention. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, so some of those monies are additional funds that can be utilized, and I want to absolutely utilize some of those funds for our parks because I think they have been neglected. I think we need to do a better job in addressing some of those, maintaining them at a higher level and a better level, and so I'm committed to do that. One of the things that I believe I don't believe we should be doing is increasing our taxes. During COVID, we saw families, businesses suffer. Now with the recession, we continue to see that. I do not want to add any other tax burdens to our residents who clearly don't need them at this point. And then, especially since we keep seeing utility rates continue to go up and increase, and we need to do a little better at making sure that we don't increase our taxes or any of those additional burdens. So I want to make sure that we're finding it through the general funds, but providing additional funds to our parks, because I do believe that we need to support them. I have been an advocate for that at the county level for our open spaces and parks. One of the things that drew me back to Colorado Springs, El Paso County, I had come here for the Air Force Academy, loved the area, did my 20 years as an Air Force officer, and I wanted to return here because of those times, those great days, because of the outdoors, the beauty, and the community. And so we want to make sure that we're maintaining our parks, our open spaces, and keeping this a beautiful community that it is.
Yeah. So you mentioned not wanting to raise taxes to do this, but do you support extending the top sales tax?
The tops, yes, I do. I have been supportive of that. I think it's been a valuable tool for our community, and I think it can be utilized smartly. And we did see that the community came behind. I believe the community is coming behind it now. We saw them oppose a tax increase just recently. This was on the ballot last year. So I think the public has spoken. They don't want to see new taxes, and that's why I believe we should not be increasing people's taxes or adding new taxes.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about public safety, specifically when it comes to fixing response times for service calls. How do you plan to do this?
Right, so we need to make sure, again, under public safety, so our police and fire, one of the things the previous police chief did acknowledge was that the call response times were not adequate. And then also there was a concerns with dropped calls as well. And so I want to make sure that we address that, as well as the manning situation within the Colorado Springs Police Department. So we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to address the retention and recruiting, and then if it also requires improved training or software updates in terms of the calls, what do we need to do to address that? Because government's #1 priority, in my belief, is public safety, making sure that our residents feel and are safe in their homes and in our neighborhoods. And so I want to make sure that that is a priority, and we will be addressing that. And I've been bringing this up for the past year as I started to see that information. And as I've mentioned before, as a county commissioner and as a candidate for mayor, my priorities are public safety, roads, and infrastructure.
Yeah, but there's not a specific new software that you're looking at right now.
Again, I would have to look into the what do they believe is the issue. Yep. If it's training, if it's undermanning, then we'll have to get more people in there. If it's retention, well, perhaps looking at salaries to get better retention for that area. But we will be addressing it, and we will be fixing it.
Yeah, we hear about recruitment and retention a lot when it comes to our police force here in Colorado Springs. And you mentioned possibly increasing salaries. What other solutions are you looking at if elected mayor?
Sure, and one of the things I bring that amongst our candidates that I think separates me from some of those candidates is my long history of working with law enforcement. For Colorado Springs, I was on their sales tax oversight committee for their public safety, so the dollars that go directly to fire and the police. I was a 2-term member, and I was the chair of that in my last year. So I've worked with our local police and fire. In my military career, I've worked with law enforcement, state patrol, federal agencies, and so I have a good understanding of their needs. And a lot of this, sometimes it's having that pride and morale. And as we've seen in the last several years across the country, those things had become an issue. And I think we're seeing a return to that pride amongst our communities. And what I want to do is I want to sit with our police force, our fire, our first responders, and our community. And I already did this in the last several months. I've participated in forums that were law enforcement and our community members coming together so that we're all on the same page. We understand we want to do the same thing. We want to have pride in our community. We want to make sure our community feels safe and that we're supportive of our law enforcement. And so we're going to also improve the morale and that support for our community, as well as addressing any issues in terms of retention, recruiting. And if it is a salary issue, benefit issue, or morale, I'm going to address it.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about public housing, or excuse me, affordable housing, not public safety. What realistic solutions do you want to see put in place here in the city of Colorado Springs?
Sure. So this is a multi-pronged approach because there's no one simple solution, or it would have been done already. So we need to continue to address it in different ways. So one of the things I'm proud of is my work at the county on our county's housing authority. So we've addressed some of this through grants, through programs that assist low-income homeowners, new homeowners, as well as veterans and anybody else trying to get into housing. We have a turnkey program that has been helpful for those. Also, the county has sponsored private activity bonds. This is very beneficial to developments that are trying to build affordable housing. And in this case, our sponsorship of those bonds oftentimes saves a developer builder who's trying to do this type of housing hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. And so getting that together, matching grants, will address some of these issues. The other things we need to do is to make sure that we're streamlining processes, regulations, permitting, so that things are more efficient and therefore saves time, which saves money. And again, helps keep the costs down. And one of the things I've done, as I think I've done very well at the county level, is being an advocate at the state level on issues related to legislative bills. And so I've been an advocate with our counties association where we're either supporting or opposing bills that could be either helping or hurting the housing costs. So things that might be proposed at the state level that may add costs to housing, I will oppose, and I'll be an advocate and a voice for our community to help keep costs down. And I've demonstrated that at the county level, and I believe I can demonstrate that again and continue that as being a voice for our community and for our housing needs as mayor. And so again, it's a multi-pronged approach, but putting everything together, whether it's supporting or opposing bills that may help or oppose those that might be hurting our housing costs, advocating for streamlined regulations, and then those other programs, I think are one of the ways we can address that. And then also identifying smart growth areas so that we're building.
I actually do have to stop you there because we are out of time.